The husband threw the blind pregnant wife into the garbage near the highway. See what happened then. Hello everyone. Welcome to our channel. Brew some tea, sit back, and enjoy listening to our stories. Sara couldn't find a job for a long time. She already felt that her husband David was clearly dissatisfied with this, but didn't say anything to her. Well, Sara felt that something was wrong. She tried to convince herself that her husband didn't care whether she worked or not, but her inner complexes and feelings of inferiority didn't let her rest. She understood that it all came from her childhood, where her mother always said that no matter how hard she tried, she would never be beautiful. Her father, in turn, always beat her on every occasion and said that only a fool would marry such a worthless and lazy cow. Sara couldn't get rid of the idea that she really was a completely worthless person, and that David had married her not out of love, but out of pity, his kindness and sympathy. Yes, that was what Sara thought. She hadn't even thought of love. She wasn't sure if she loved David. Yes, it happens. Due to the fact that some girls have complexes from childhood, destinies are broken. Families are destroyed and relationships become toxic. Was David aware of all of this? I don't think so. More likely, he just couldn't understand what his wife needed and what was wrong with her after all. The unhappy and disappointed man didn't get what he expected out of his marriage and had no idea what to do about it. On the basis of all these problems, when Sara had the opportunity to get a job in a chemical company in a hazardous industry, she was happy. "What are you so happy about, silly?" David asked. "You'll end up ruining your health." "At least I'll make more money," said Sara. The woman was in poor health. She had been trying to get pregnant for a few years, but unsuccessfully. That wasn't good for her self-esteem. Sara had seen repeatedly when her friends manipulated their men with the help of pregnancy. Some managed to push the boyfriend into marriage. Some managed to keep the husband from getting a divorce. But none of this was available to Sara. And if David was thinking about divorce, she would have nothing to do without a trump card up her sleeve. Probably Sara would have just fainted in the blink of an eye and never regained consciousness. Luckily or not, David was fine with it, and he wasn't thinking of any divorce. All in all, the two were living a strange life in a strange relationship. Each of them had enough grievances and problems that had accumulated, but neither of them wanted to talk or sort things out. That was how Sara and David lived. On the passport, they were husband and wife, but in reality, they were almost neighbors who didn't even know each other. Of course, working in a hazardous chemical factory took its toll. Sara began to go blind. Who would have thought that all those chemicals would affect her health in this way? Adding to her health problems was the fact that she was finally pregnant. And what do you think? Did she tell her husband? No. Her inflamed brain again found a reason why it wasn't the right time to do it yet. She had decided to remain silent about her pregnancy. She decided that her husband would surely force her to have an abortion, and so she kept quiet. Sara procrastinated going to the doctor and didn't go into any maternity leave, so the blindness kept progressing. Eventually, Sara was dismissed as unfit for work and was once again a millstone around her husband's neck, something she dreaded more than anything else in the world. Sara couldn't have imagined that the thing that David feared most was the fact that he would have to look after his incapacitated wife for the rest of his life. He wasn't going to do that, so he decided to get rid of his wife. As it turned out, David hadn't even considered the option of a simple and secure divorce. He decided to just get rid of his wife as some kind of rubbish. One day, David put his blind and deeply pregnant wife, who understood nothing, into the car and drove her to the track. Sara didn't even wonder what was going on. She seemed 100% resigned to her fate. Did David know she was pregnant? History is silent on that. Probably not. After all, Sara never disclosed her pregnancy. He found a huge garbage dump on the road and just threw his wife in the dumpster without saying a word. He turned around and drove away. The blind, pregnant woman didn't immediately realize where she was. It was only the smell that put everything in its place. Sara had once again received a confirmation of all of her complexes. Now she was in the very place she thought she deserved. She was frightened that a rubbish truck would come and take her away to the disposal site. She went into labor from her nerves and started giving birth right in the rubbish bin among the trash. She tried to get out, but it didn't happen. The baby was born. And then a second baby came into the world. Oh my God, she's having twins. She had no idea. Completely exhausted, Sara fainted. It wasn't a child's crying that woke her up. It was a strange slurping and squelching sound. She reached her hands down and felt something large and furry. It poked its head into the rubbish bin and licked her babies with its big tongue. Oh God, it was a bear. It was used to coming here and eating the scraps that people passing by threw away. This time it discovered something strange. 2 small children just born and a man with no feelings and no movement. Why the man had climbed into the dumpster, the bear probably couldn't comprehend, but realized that they needed help. When it saw the woman was groping its muzzle and couldn't get out in any way, the bear got ready to help those in distress. Sara, in turn, realizing there was a bear, didn't even fight it. She had decided to accept her fate and just waited for her death. What a pity she would never get to see her children's faces, she thought. After all, being eaten by a bear isn't so bad. It's much worse to die in a dustbin, she thought. The bear knew only one possible way to help the man. It had to call for another man. It pulled each of the children carefully out of the bin, licked them again, and put them on the grass. Then grabbed Sara by the collar and pulled her out of the bin. Only then did she realize that the bear was helping her. The bear, meanwhile, ran to the highway to stop the car. It had realized a long time ago that there were people sitting in those iron moving things. Bear simply stepped out onto the road, bringing the traffic to a standstill. A man emerged from one of the several cars that had opened and heard a woman screaming. When Sara realized the bear was helping, she screamed for help. This is how she and her children were rescued. The man turned out to be one of the doctors of alternative medicine. He was very interested in Sara's blindness and offered to help her. She had nowhere else to go. She wasn't going back to David. Firstly, because of his betrayal, and secondly, because she realized that she had never loved him. He just happened to be the first man she married just to get rid of her parents. The man's name was Paul. He was a little older than David, but Sara liked the way he talked to her and his smell. The treatment brought tangible results, and soon, when the twins were a year old, Sara could see Paul's face. At that very moment, he proposed to her, and Sara said yes. We don't know about the bear's fate, as well as that of David. But Sara and Paul lived together to this day. He adopted her children. That's the story. Thank you for listening till the end. Don't forget to subscribe and like. Also click on that bell icon so you don't miss any new videos. Best of luck to you.